I want to show excellence. I want to show truth. I want to show love and beauty. And I want to show all the specific things of these indigenous communities.
I remember last time you and I spoke was for Red Rover.
That's right. I remember that as well.
Yeah, that was which I still remember. I love that film. That was great.
All
So
right on, man. I love hearing that. That's really kind, man. Right on.
I appreciate that. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to talking about this too. So
Yeah.
let's talk about Amplify. Uh,
Okay. Great. I'm happy to talk to you about Amplify. I'll tell you that much. It's a real joy to make this show.
well, I can't wait to talk. Well, speaking of course with Shane Belcourt, the producer is a proper your producer behind Amplify season three. Is that I'm got the right role? I think.
Yeah, so I created the series, and I was also like I've been directing and editing in season one. You know how it is. You're kind of like a homemade project with some amazing people as well. And then for season two, I was able to step back, and the same for season three. And I co-produced it with Jason Ryle, and associate producers Claudia Skunk and Adam Phipps. And then there's a roster of directors. So it's an anthology series where every episode is directed by somebody different. And I've moved more into the show running role for both season two and the new season three.
Well, I confess this was my first experience with Amplify, and it's fantastic. Like it is such a wonderful series, telling such beautiful stories. How, I mean, you said you were created the show. Why did you want to tell these stories in the way that you have?
I mean, I am a recovering musician. So I've always loved documentaries or programs that have music in them and central to it. The creative process, I think, is fascinating. And I love seeing behind the scenes, people in the studio, how they make things, but also why they make things. And that's the part that gets really exciting to think about. So when I conceived of the series, it was, what would it mean if we had an Indigenous singer-songwriter inspired by something indigenous, a book, a poem, a painting, a teaching, a word that they're learning in their language? And what would it mean if they wrote a new song based on this indigenous teaching? So then we could see them recording this new song and we'd hear about why they chose their inspiration, how they connect to it. And then at the same time, we'd be able to cross-cut that with interviewing people who would be the experts in a documentary sense of what that is. If it's the author of the book or the painter of the painting or the language teacher of the word. And then we'd be able to cross-cut the process of recording the song, why they chose the inspiration, what is the inspiration, and at the very end of every episode, we'd have a music video where we could see it. And I was inspired by Sonic's Highways with Dave Grohl. I was inspired by Sigur Ros's when they went out into Iceland and they went to out in the fields and recorded an album and taped it. Just this idea of like, what would it mean to take some of these bands back home to record their songs? And what would that mean if they involved more people from their community and their journey there or their connections there into their songwriting in their thought process of how to create a song. So it was really just like, I love music. I love being a Métis creator. I love being a part of the Indigenous community. And like, what would it be to just have the most fun making a music show? That was the whole reason for it, just to have fun.
Well, it works so well. Like, I mean, anybody that's ever listened to our podcast knows that my biggest love of a story is why. It's like,
Mm.
why bring this to life? Why tell it this way? And every episode of this show, of the series, delves into that question. Like every person is giving their own passions, their own, love of not only art, but storytelling and all of these things. What has struck you most about each of these artists? Because, as you said, they're going home and they're creating this new thing together.
One of the conceits of the series from the beginning was we wanted to pair the featured songwriter of every episode with someone from that community. So the director of the episode is also from the same community that the feature artist is from. And I'll give you an example. So in episode four, it's directed by Trevor Soloway, and it's also features an artist, Darcy Turning Robe. And he's a traditional singer and performer. And Darcy and Trevor know each other. They're from the same community. They're both Blackfoot artists and thinkers and creators. So to put two of those people together making that work, there's a shorthand, there's different connections, and there's passions. So what is important in any kind of documentary that's directed, I think, is when Yes, you can have a director who's like, I've never been here before. What's going on? I like the ones where the director sort of has a a vested personal passion about this area. And in some senses, you have to do research. In these senses, there's not a lot of research that's been required. They can just dive in and get really personal with the artist. So when the Trevor is interviewing Darcy, they can really dig into things and become emotional. And the artist can be really comfortable knowing that it's an all Indigenous crew with an Indigenous director from their community. So that really opens up the dialogue in a really quick way. And that's been one of the central conceits of it, of how to have the best pairings with the artist and the director. What's the best way of pulling everybody together quickly? Because you know how these things in TV are made. These are 4 day shoots per episode, and that includes 1 day for a music video. So we got to move in quick, lean and mean. Therefore, we have to rely on the pre-production phase to be something that's really quick and shorthand where Trevor and Darcy know each other. They can go for coffee, they can have meals, they can really form that bond. So when we roll in with the crew, it's very, very quickly for us to recede into the background and let their moment shine together.
That's so interesting because the pairings are so natural.
Mm.
So you wouldn't expect it's like, okay, well, they've got 4 days, so they've got like this limited amount of time. But one of the things too, I think it was in the press notes or something, in regards to the series, it talks about through their music, the cultures are amplified.
Mm.
And I was wondering if you could talk about the meaning of that, what that means to you.
Yeah, so it's like I mean, I grew up in a very political household. My dad, Tony Belcourt's, been a Métis rights leader, and I've grown around all of that political thinking. So, one element of it is always, I want to make propaganda. I want to show excellence. I want to show truth. I want to show love and beauty, and I want to show all the specific things of these indigenous communities, of the Métis community or others that are cousins, etc., of how we can shine and feel really great and really uplifted through our artworks about who we are and where we've been and where we're going. And in that regard, uh, one of the things about the show, which is interesting about you're asking about the different specific nations, is that in Canada we think about Métis, First Nations, and Inuit, but when you get into each of those communities, there are sub communities and sub nations, right? You wouldn't, like everybody would know, say, Mohawk and Haida, and that exists also in Inuit communities and that exists in Métis communities. I'm from Lac St. Anne, Alberta, which is different from somebody who's going to be from Red River. These are different things. They'd be Soto background, I'm Cree background. So these kind of things, these specific things are very, I think, underutilized on screen. So when a songwriter comes on, they're not singing from a general indigenous perspective. They're going home with a director like the episode Tia Wood, she's Cree, the partner of the director of Alex Larowich is also Cree from Alberta. So they're coming together and they're making something that's specific to what they know. And that's something that we really, really wanted to do, Jason and I, was have the right pairings so we could highlight not just general indigenous excellence, but specific community excellence as we go across every series.
I love that you're saying that because, one of the other things that happens in these episodes is language.
Mhm.
Language is so important here. And I was wondering, as you speaking to these artists, the fact that they're using their language of wherever, of whichever nation, or not nation, I'm sorry, whichever tribe they are maybe from, how that empowers them and comes through and empowers their music.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's been amazing to see. So, my dad and all his people from his era grew up in the community, fully immersed with language.
Hmm.
Many, including my dad, left their community to move to big cities and urban centers for jobs, for fighting for rights, whatever it might be. Their kids oftentimes have grown up in urban centers. So sometimes for my generation, while I grew up hearing my dad speak Cree to my grandma and grandpa and all those things, I'm not fluent. I'm still trying to learn it. But there's another generation that's coming up afterwards, which is really immersed again in the language and their specific language from their communities. So for some of these artists, it was a natural given. No problem. I can absolutely write a song. And that was one of our challenges. Can you include the language in your song and a chorus and a hook, or maybe the whole song itself, whatever it might be? Can you include language in the song to really pull us in to listen? It's so easy to learn language when you're singing it, any language. So that Frère Jacques, I remember that from French class. So that's what we wanted to do with this, with the challenge from the episodes. And some young artists already have it fully immersed. Some of the older artists, people my generation, they're still reclaiming or reconnecting with their language. And in that sense, it has another element of a challenge. It's kind of an emotional application of writing songs and learning language at the same time. So depends on what episode specifically that we're talking about, but we really do want to, Jason and I, we're so passionate as I can think of any Indigenous person. We're passionate about our specific language, its revitalization, and how it can not only help us ground ourselves in ourselves, but help us move through the world in a better way by knowing our language. And music is a key way to just have a way to just get into your head and sing along with it and know it forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it like one of the things too we see in this film too, in that or in this series, I should say, as well, is the nature of healing through music or expressing oneself, the power of that. And I think it's Tia's episode. Now I know that the reference I believe is to her parents having been a part of residential schools. But we hear her father talk about there's a time for healing, a time for living, and we can't spend the rest of our lives healing. We need to live.
Mm.
And I wondered about that. We see a little bit in that as well in Shane's episode. The way that music, expressing oneself through music, gives them life. And as a recovering musician, as you said, but even speaking with these artists, how in your mind have you seen that, where these artists are finding ways to live through their music?
Yeah, it's like I mean, being a part of the music scene my whole life, and I made a feature documentary with Tom Wilson and another Mohawk singer-songwriter, and just all these artists, and he was also in a season 2 of Amplify, all the different songwriters we have a chance to work with. It's musicians have a shorthand amongst each other. Like you're already part of a weird circus. You go out and you perform the deepest part of your heart with other people and you create these things. So you're kind of used to that part of it. And then you put it on TV, it can be a little bit daunting to sort of figure out like where's the layer of truth or reveal that you want to have. But I think what it comes down to is really again that trust that the artist has with the director of every episode. So that allows them to kind of like go places that maybe might they may sometimes would catch themselves off guard. But I find that's the harder part with musicians is getting them to talk about the process, getting them to speak about where every idea is coming from. And because sometimes things are, until they think about it, and things were just felt and created. They weren't necessarily plotted. And so now we're asking in retrospect, how did you get to where you got to? And I think that can be for some artists a little different, a different process for them, where them just thinking about and creating music from an emotional reaction to something is the most natural and easiest part of their day. Speaking about it would be something that and oftentimes is a little more challenging. But again, that's why the director being paired with the right artist is so central.
Well, it absolutely. I understand what you're saying. Like there needs to be a level of comfort there and a level of safety to be able to express yourself. I'm always amazed at how an artist can express themselves, not only on stage but just through their music. I think is really incredible.
Hmm.
Um, Shane, the series is just so wonderful. But what do you hope people take away from it?
That's a great question. When we make this series, it's always kind of like two central parts. We want the people who are involved in the making of it, the communities that are on screen, the artists and families that are on screen, to feel like we've achieved in the 22 minutes of each episode some sense of truth and honesty, and love and laughter in every episode so that they can feel that we've taken care of their story in a good way. And the other part that we hope is really quite simple. I love watching programs about artists creating things. I just love it. I watch them all the time. And at the end of the day, music is music, stories are stories. And I hope that everybody can tune in and just go like, I didn't know that about this artist. I didn't know that about this community. I love the song. That was cool. On to the next episode and binge through. I mean, what else could you hope for?
Absolutely. And the music is great. We talk about the people, but the music that you hear on it is absolutely wonderful as well. Honestly, Shane, thank you so much for the time. I really do appreciate it. Amplify is something special, and I look forward to chatting again.
Absolutely, man. We'll be chatting soon enough. I'm positive. Thank you so
Sounds good.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.